back to Prisma Chats. Today, I am talking to Mahmoud Abdelwahab, who is a developer advocate, videographer extraordinaire.
Hi.
Hey Nika, how's it going?
It's going really well. How's it going with you?
Yeah, it's going great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I suggest we jump right into it. So, could you please briefly introduce what you do, what a developer advocate like you does, and to start
Okay,
with that.
sure. So I currently work as a developer advocate at Prisma, and what I do is basically interact with the community and also create content. So content can take different forms. It can be videos, it can be blog posts, it could be live streams. In general, it's kind of like I sit between, as a developer advocate, between the product or engineering and our users, which are developers, which is really cool. And yeah, so like my job is mostly content, a little bit of engineering because we work on demos and make sure that integrations exist. I can also contribute to documentation, and I just make the user's life easier. That's kind of like my main goal. So whether to create a community where they feel welcome or to give them kind of like a great first time like experience. So like when they learn about Prisma, when they try it out for the first time, they're like, whoa, this is really cool. So yeah, that's kind of like what we do.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. So, how did you get started with content and getting into engineering and stuff like that?
So I'm currently a senior, so like I'm in my final year as a computer science student, and I got into coding, I would say like in my second year. So like I got really serious about it. I started kind of like focusing on web development, specifically like front-end development, and I got really good at it. And then I was like, okay, I want to kind of like be known in the community, and I started contributing. So I started speaking at meetups, at conferences, started to do a little bit of writing, and just hanging out on different social media platforms like Twitter. Yeah, and then kind of like started having a portfolio of kind of like of content. And then as I was scrolling on Twitter, I saw Prisma. They were like, hey, we're hiring a developer advocate who's a working student. So I was like, this is perfect. I got the job and I've been here for almost a year. So yeah, it's been
Awesome.
fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned that you're still studying, and what would you
Mhm.
say is the biggest change from a university environment to a company environment?
I already knew that the university environment, kind of like courses and studying, is very different from the real world. And so like in the real world, there's just a lot of different skills that you need to have, from talking to people, communicating your ideas, to communicating your progress and what you're working on. And so I wasn't really kind of like shocked or anything. However, one of the challenges that I faced was working in a remote team. So I worked previously, like all of my previous experiences, they weren't really remote. Like either I wasn't part of a team, I was working solo, or I was, talking to people and meeting them in like in an office. But like right now I'm working remotely. So kind of like adapting to this change, I would say was kind of like the biggest challenge, but I got the hang of it, which was cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I also really appreciate that this is a remote first, like very team-based, collective
Yeah.
effort situation. It's one of the best things ever. What would you say, now we're getting to the heavy stuff, what would you say is your biggest challenge currently?
Biggest challenge currently, I would say, so as a developer advocate, I create content. And when you're creating content, you kind of can't learn new things at the same time. You're teaching what you already know, unless you're learning by teaching. So technically, there are two ways. What I currently do is produce kind of like high quality, very polished stuff. And this is me just communicating my knowledge, what I already know. But if I was kind of like showing as I'm learning, so like saying, oh, here's what I learned. This is kind of me teaching as I'm learning, but I haven't been really doing that. So yeah, I would say the biggest challenge is kind of like balancing the creating and consuming. So sometimes it's been a while since I kind of like learned something new or like build something that is really cool. And yeah, I plan on kind of like overcoming this. It's kind of like, you have to bounce back and forth between these two modes. Either you're creating or you're learning. But yeah, I'd say this is kind of like the biggest challenge.
A pretty unique one as well, and really thorough. It sounds like you put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah, because like you have to keep learning because new tools come out, things get updates, and just like the software world is just moving at an incredible pace and it just keeps evolving. So you have to keep up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to just keep up and teach at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have to be very intentional about learning. Because if I was just a regular individual contributor, just doing engineering, there might be more time for me to kind of like learn. So yeah, I would say this is kind of like the biggest challenge.
Okay, awesome. But what do you like most about working at Prisma?
At Prisma, so there are a lot of things. I would say I really love working part of a team. So I work solo. Like I can do it, kind of like Batman, I work alone. But I prefer working with people. Like I love kind of like hanging out and brainstorming ideas together on kind of like celebrating together. So this is one of the things that I really love. I love that it's a remote first company. Like I'm a huge fan and a big advocate for remote work. And what else do I love? I'd say the product. I think the product is just, it's incredible. Like we really are redefining kind of like the developer experience of working with databases. So being part of that and kind of like help people or like help developers know about it, know kind of like the value proposition of using Prisma is just super cool. It's kind of like you see these engineers, they're just constantly putting out new features and the product is just slowly kind of like evolving and growing in front of you. So I don't know. I think I really love this. And yeah.
That's so endearing. Yeah. Right. So what's your most exciting project? It can be something that you're currently working on, something that you worked on in the past.
So most exciting project, I would say pre-recorded talks. For me, so like I can do talks. I've spoken at meetups, live, and also like in person, and also remotely. But like there's something unique about just giving a pre-recorded talk because I just have full control over the entire viewing experience. I can add music. I can just show stuff and pop them, and kind of just I don't know. Be kind of like this is my creative outlet where I can just show people like, oh yeah, I can, I don't have to do things in the traditional way. I can actually experiment. So I'd say this is the most exciting project, and I have kind of like an upcoming big talk that I'm working on. And yeah, I'm just super excited about it. I'm kind of like just writing the script, imagining what it will look like, and just hopefully kind of like my expectations match what I actually work. So like, but yeah, I would say this is the most exciting thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I enjoy making pre-recorded videos. I mean, I don't do talks, but creating content is just so much fun, even though you're like looking at yourself and editing yourself, and then like your expectations are getting higher and higher for every video that you make, but still, that doesn't take away the fun of it. I don't know if you feel the same.
It's some work, but I would say this is work that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, same. So, what is a technology that gets you most excited?
Technology that gets me most excited. I don't know. Like I'd say the web in general. So like there are just so many tools that are just kind of like becoming more and more popular. And each one of these tools is trying to be the best possible with like the best developer experience. So as a developer, I feel like I don't know, I'm at a mall and I'm shopping and like, oh, there's this really cool tool and there's this really cool tool. And I have the luxury of like picking and choosing kind of like the best, and they're all getting really, really good. So I would say I'm just excited about the state of like developer tools because you can build stuff just that are very, like you can build stuff very quickly and at the same time they can scale. So yeah, I would say I don't have a particular technology that I'm excited about, but I would say kind of like using all these tools like together is what excites me the most.
That's super cool. I'm not a developer myself, so I like to get excited about things that are more about convenience or things that people can use every day, something tangible, like Roombas or like air fryers. and stuff like that.
I'm a big air fryer fan. Like I got
Yeah,
myself one. Like I would say, I think it was during. Oh yeah, it was during quarantine. I was like,
of course.
let's see what this air fryer thing is all about. And then, yeah, I'm never going back. It's like
Yeah.
it is life changing, and it's an understatement. But yeah, like I think it's really nice, and yeah, you should get excited about air fryers. They're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. My next question for you is what your preferred stack is.
My preferred stack. So preferred stack for like building like side projects.
Anything. I know
Anything.
it's really,
So
it depends on what you want to do, what your end goal is, and you can combine it with an endless amount of different languages and databases. So, whatever.
okay. So I would say I'm excited. It's kind of like my tech stack. I would say I really enjoy working with Next.js, Prisma, of course, and I would say it's either like I'm just a big GraphQL fan. I think it is incredible technology. It just has incredible developer experience. I would say GraphQL, Prisma, Next.js, along with kind of like I don't know other tools to kind of like achieve features like I don't know, for example, like authentication. You would use like different libraries and like maybe authorization. So I would say the kind of like the things that won't change is Prisma, Next.js, and GraphQL.
But as an educator, what would you advise people that are just starting out to learn first when they're just entering this world?
So when entering this world, it can be very overwhelming because there's
Yeah.
just so many tools out there, and each tool kind of like is opinionated. They have their own opinions, and they think things should be done a certain way. So you kind of feel like, well, there's just so many things to learn. When in reality, it's kind of like when you have the fundamentals, you kind of understand, okay, what are the problems? And then you can see what are the different solutions. So I don't know, there are just so many use cases. For example, like databases, if you start out and you're like, okay, I want to become a backend engineer, I want to build backends for applications, you're suddenly overwhelmed. There's just so many databases out there. And the reality is, once you know the fundamentals of like, okay, how to design a database, for example, and kind of like what the different types of databases and kind of like the different trade-offs, you immediately understand, okay, why this new database has been introduced. So I would say it's okay to just not know all of these tools. Like it's very, very kind of like, it's okay to just, know a couple of things, but also being kind of like aware of the different things that exist. So this way you won't become overwhelmed. And another advice I would say is just, it takes time. Like it takes time to understand concepts, to build using the tool, and also like you might like not run in the happy path where like, okay, you're using a tool, you run into unexpected issues. So you have to learn, okay, how do I find the solution? So maybe you'd go like on GitHub, you look at previous kind of like issues, you look at the documentation, maybe, I don't know, you complain on Twitter and you're like, hey, someone help me, please. So like, it's a learning experience, and it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like what necessary to go through all these steps. And so if you already know that, you won't be discouraged. So that's what I'd say, kind of like my biggest advice.
Yeah, that's so valuable, and it can be translated onto everything basically. Because it's
Like,
the older I get, the harder it is to learn any concept. And
I don't know. So like, I believe that as a person, I can learn anything. It may be challenging. It may be something kind of like very new, or maybe just, I don't know, a concept that's just completely new to me. But with time, with enough effort, when you ask questions, when you try to explain things yourself, eventually you'll get it. But sometimes it's just hard, but it is what it is.
yeah, trust the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, to end on a really high note, I really appreciate all your answers and your time coming on the show. I hope
Thank
you have a
you.
wonderful day, and to everyone watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.
All
Goodbye.
right. Bye, everyone.